Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to TravelJoy 101. It's a little bit of an introduction to the TravelJoy.com software tonight. My name is Alan Pugh. I'm the head of customer success here at TravelJoy, and I'll be walking you through the software a little bit. As we go along, feel free to ask questions at any time in the chat on the right-hand side here, and we'll answer those along the way. We're going to give people a couple of minutes to get registered and tuned in here. And during that time, I'm going to talk a little bit about the history of the company for just a couple of minutes to give folks time to get settled. And then after that, we're going to spend about 40 minutes or so kind of walking through the product, seeing how it works, kind of going through the entire trip process from creating the trip through client inquiry, proposal, invoice, and all that good stuff, and walking you through the dashboard and the general look and feel of TravelJoy. We'll be moving pretty quickly, so I do expect that there will be questions afterwards. Absolutely feel free to email hello@traveljoy.com at any time for support. I'll go ahead and add that to chat here, hello@traveljoy.com, and that will get you to me. So we can answer questions for you after today's event is over. So first, a little bit about TravelJoy. We have been around for about 2 years. We're based out of San Francisco. However, we're a very, very small company. While our two founders are based in San Francisco, our other two employees are in Chicago and Ohio. I am near Cleveland. So we're spread out all across the country. There are only 4 of us. That said, we put out a lot of new features. We answer questions very quickly as far as support goes. So for being a small team, we have a huge heart and a lot of effort that we're putting out here for you guys. So I hope that you're able to take advantage. The company was started about 2 years ago when Chris and Dio, the two founders, they had been working together at that point for about 10 years, and they were looking to start a new venture together. And what they were searching for was software for a market that was underserved. Maybe the other software out there was a little outdated or, not modern, not fast, not intuitive. So Dio's mom actually worked in the travel industry. So Dio grew up in that industry. He created her website and helped support her. So when they wanted to know what to do next, travel agent software seemed like a very good thing for them to go for. So what they did before they got started is they actually went out and interviewed over 50 travel agents before they wrote a single line of code. So travel agents are at the core of what we do. And that continues now. As you use the software, we absolutely encourage you to provide feedback, suggestions, things that we could do better, things that we could add. And as I mentioned earlier, we add new features very, very rapidly. So we're constantly evolving here. The information that we have today is all up to date and current, but there will be new features coming out, even as soon as tomorrow that will make this software even more efficient for you. So that said, it looks like we're about 4 minutes after. So by this time, most folks should already be tuned in. We'll go ahead and jump in. I'm going to share my screen with you here. Give me just a moment to do that. And so I would recommend doing this in full screen. I am going to zoom in a little bit here. So occasionally you're going to see things that are a little bit cut off because I'm zoomed in so much. This is just one of the problems with streaming like this. So what you're seeing right now is the TravelJoy dashboard. This is what you see when you first log in. You're going to see 3 sets of information here. The first one is trip stages. This tells you how many trips are in each stage. And right now, all of mine are kind of older. So let me kind of juggle these around a little bit so we can make more sense of this together. Okay, here we go. So for example, if we want to see everybody that's in the inquiry status, we can click right here and we can see that we have 1 trip that is in the inquiry stage. If we want to see people who've answered the inquiry and they're waiting on a follow-up from us, we can click here. All these stages are completely customizable, renameable. They can be moved, they can be deleted and added to. The one thing that will always exist is off to the left here, you'll always see all, which shows you all your trips. If you want to customize this, you can come right up to the gear beside dashboard. You can drag these around, you can delete them, you can add new ones, you can change the description, change the name of the stage, all that good stuff. And you'll see as we move through tonight that most of TravelJoy is very customizable like this. The next of the three things that you'll see on your dashboard is the waiting on list. This tells you really quickly which trips are waiting on you. So at the start of your day, you can get a very quick glance at what you need to do that day. And you can see the ones that are waiting on the client. So when you get to that point in the day where you've got a lot of stuff done and you need to start following up with folks that maybe have been waiting a while to get back to you, you can click waiting on client. There's a couple different places where you can change which stage a trip is in and which who it's waiting on. One of those places is right here on the dashboard, as you saw a moment ago. This is your list of all current active trips. Everything that's active will be listed here. It'll be removed after you archive it. So these can be sorted by client name. They can be sorted ascending or descending by the trip start date, the last time you heard from them, all those types of things. And this is customizable as well. Off to the right, we have another gear. And we can choose which columns we want to show and which ones we don't. So what you're going to see here generally by default is the trip, client name, the date of the trip, and that's the start date. But if you hover over it, you'll see the start and the end date. Last time it was updated, the stage, who it's waiting on, and the archive button over here. The archive button is where you're going to go when somebody cancels, when they've completed their trip, whatever it may be that causes that trip to not be active anymore. You can come over here and click archive and choose the reason. This is just another way to keep really good, solid notes. The good thing about archive trips is this means you'll be able to look back anytime and see what your returning client's trip history has been, so you can make suggestions based off of that. Once you archive a trip, you can still find it on the dashboard by coming up to the top right corner and clicking on archive. So these are, excuse me, these are very easy to track down. So that's what's on the dashboard. We try to keep it very simple. You'll notice I unchecked the show groups box here. So groups are a collection of trips. I mean, that part's kind of obvious to you guys, but what's really nice about our dashboard is that we can group these by the group that they're in, or if we just want to see every individual trip, we can uncheck this box and see them all without seeing the group label above them. So we can do that in either direction. I'm going to run down through a few things on the left-hand side just very quickly. And once we do that, I am going to get into the process of booking a trip. One thing that I want to point out, excuse me, I apologize. I've been talking a lot today. One thing that I do want to point out is what makes us really efficient is the use of templates with TravelJoy. So templates are basically things that you create that you're going to reuse over and over again. The easiest example to understand here is going to be email templates. So for example, when a client gets home and you want to send them a follow-up to ask them how it was, welcome them home, maybe ask for feedback or referrals or whatever it may be, you can come up here and click Add Template. And in that template, you can give your template a name, a subject line, and the contents of the email. So what you would be able to do here is say, like it says here, welcome home, I hope you had a great time. Please let me know if you have feedback. You can add a link to your website right here, whatever you want to do to make it really easy for your clients to recommend you to other people or just make sure they're happy. So once you save this down at the bottom, it's available for you to use over and over with any client, so you don't have to type this every time. That applies to everything that you see over here in the templates list. So confirmations is the response a client gets after submitting a form, the response they get after approving a proposal, or the response they get after paying an invoice. If once a client has approved a proposal, you'd like to have them book something with you, say via Calendly, you can come right in here You can add that, and what's going to happen is when a client finishes approving a proposal, the next screen they see is going to say this over here, and they're going to be able to click that link to book a follow-up phone call with you. So these are, again, all completely customizable. Invoice templates, same thing. So we have several different invoice line items that already exist: hotel, air, cruise, things like that. However, if you do, say, a specific tour very often, you can come up here and click Add Invoice Item. I'm going to delete my old example first. You can come up here and click Add Invoice Item, and say you do, I always fall back on this one for some reason, but you do the Boy Band Hall of Fame tour. You can give this a type, which is going to be a tour. You can give this a description. You can give it a starting price. And down here at the bottom, you can add a whole bunch of things as well. So if there's going to be a tour like maybe every single week, you can put a date field in here. So what this is doing basically is creating a line item. So when we create invoices later, you'll be able to add this to an invoice with just a single click. So I'm going to save this for now, and this will all come together later when we're actually building an invoice. I'll show you how to use that. It may be a little bit confusing right now, but basically what we're doing is creating the repetitive building blocks we'll use so we can save ourselves a lot of time later. Another thing here is task lists. So for example, I have made a task list called Hype Messages. That's a 30 days till their trip message, a 14 days till their trip message, 7 days till their trip message. This is messages that I'm going to want to send my clients to make sure that they're hyped up for their trip. These can be completely customized to remind you what to do at any given time. So the 14 days till trip message can have a due date of 14 days before the trip start date at 8 a.m. And what that's going to do is remind you to send them their hype email. Again, I'll show you how to use these templates later, but this is how to build them. The only two other things that are in here are forms and terms and conditions, which work much the same way. You're not going to have to type your terms and conditions every time, because you're going to be able to come in here and create them once, and they will automatically be attached to your invoice every single time. So that's a little bit about templates. What I'm going to do next is create a trip so I can actually show you how they all work. So the pink create button is always up here in the top left corner. This is where you create a trip or a group. We're going to keep it simple today and create a trip. You don't need a whole lot of info to get started here. Basically, as soon as you have a lead, you know their name. That's really all that you need. So when we're creating a new trip, we can either choose a traveler that we've already worked with before, or we can click Create New and add a new client from scratch. And all we need to do that is their first and last name and email address. In this case, we're going to go with Amanda Lynn. She's a sample client that I have here. And we're going to send her to Mexico. This is all that we need to get started. However, one thing that I do definitely recommend is choosing a photo up here. All of these photos are royalty free. You're free to use them as often as you'd like. And there's just hundreds to choose from, really. What I'm going to do here is type in, say, Cancun. See what we've got here. And once we've found a photo that we like, we can go ahead and click Create Trip. Now, by the way, when you're choosing a photo, you can come over here to Upload and choose a photo that you've taken yourself as well. That's absolutely okay. You're going to want to make sure that they're at least 1200 by 300 because they do need to be wide and not very tall. So that's it. Now we've created a trip. You're on the trip screen right now. I'm just going to bounce back to the dashboard really quick and show you that this is now on the dashboard, updated less than a minute ago. You got your client name, the name of the trip, but there's not a trip date yet. It's in the inquiry phase because we have not sent them an inquiry yet. And it's waiting on me because I have not, because again, I still need to send them an inquiry. So I'm going to pop back in here. And what you'll see is the photo that we chose earlier is top and center. And every time a client gets a form, a proposal, or an invoice, it's going to have that trip photo at the top. So they're going to be constantly reminded of the awesome place that they're about to go. It's going to have your logo over here along with your name and your company name. And over here at the right, it's going to have their information. That is going to be at the top of those proposals and invoices and forms as well, just like it appears here. So very consistent branding experience for your clients when working with you. There's a few tabs here for the trip. I will get to what these tabs are for later because first we need to create some information that will appear under these tabs. The first thing that we're going to want to do is send an inquiry. Everything that you send from a trip, whether it's a form, a proposal, an invoice, all starts over here on the right side with the blue create button. If you're following along on your computer right now by chance, you may notice that you do not have a direct invoice option. This option will only show up if you've added a bank account to receive money directly from clients. Like maybe if you're collecting a trip planning fee outside of an agency, if you're working independently. That's what direct invoices are for. And if we don't know where to send that money for you once we've collected it, then we don't give you the option to ask for it. So that would be why I have this and some of you out there may not yet. And we can come back to that later. Jen, you may want to, if she can't hear me, just have her close and reopen. We will have a recording afterwards that we can send along as well, just so you know. I just noticed what was happening over there. So we'll at least have that as a secondary option. So we're going to click create and then form, as we talked about. And then what you'll notice is form gives kinds of options here. There's a drop-down list that has all of the different forms that we've given you. All the ones that say default after are the ones that automatically come with TravelJoy, although you can create forms on your own, again, under templates and forms to ask for any type of information you want. In this case, though, we're going to send a client inquiry, so we're just going to click that. And anytime that you're creating a form or you're about to send a form and you want to see what it looks like to make sure you're sending the right one, there's a super easy way to do that. You can just come up to the top and click preview. And this is what the client's going to see on their end. This is the form, again, with the branding at the top, just like we talked about, and that's what they'll see on their screen. So we can go back to edit here. And what we want to do next is click next review email. This is how we send it. So obviously, if the client's going to get a form, it's going to come in the form of an email. And so there has to be an email explaining what the link is for. And this will make sense in a few minutes here. But what this says is, hi, Amanda, thank you for reaching out to me. I'd like to know more about what your needs might be. This is introducing the inquiry form. So I'm going to send this. And then since Amanda Lynn is completely made up, I'm going to come over here to Amanda Lynn's fake inbox. And we're going to open it up. As you'll see, she just received a message that says exactly what that email said over on our end with a link to her trip form. When she clicks that, she's going to see exactly what we saw when we clicked preview. Now, the great thing about our forms is that you can have, you can fill out as much information or as little information as you want as a client. So if she wants to give you her budget, and she wants to say, oh, I want to go from, let's say, 5:30 to 6:15. And that's all she wants to answer, that's completely fine. Now, by the way, I'm going to go ahead and submit this form acting on behalf of Amanda. If Amanda's bringing a second person with her, she can just click add traveler right here and let you know that right away. She can fill out all the information for the second traveler. So this is always an option. You don't need to send multiple forms or send forms to multiple people if you've got a group. If you've got a head of household that just wants to fill it out for everybody, as soon as they submit it for themselves, they'll be able to add another traveler just by clicking a button here. Just another way we try to make it a little bit easier. So now that we have sent a form to the client, I want to go ahead and refresh my page here because I want to show you what all these tabs are for now. The Messages tab on any trip is where you communicate back and forth with your client, and it's going to show you all the communications you've had back and forth. There's not message threads here. It's just one, back and forth with the most recent message always at the top. So think about it like a text message conversation, but it operates via email. For example, earlier, I sent Amanda Lynn this form asking her, giving her the client inquiry. One really cool thing is when you send a form, a proposal, or an invoice, you can see when they viewed it. I'm going to hover over the date here, and I see that I sent this to Amanda Lynn at 7/19, and she viewed it at 7/19. Usually a minute or two passes before there, so you can see the difference. But you always have insight to see exactly when a client has viewed those. Just a very helpful thing. And then you see that she filled out the responses here. You see the dates that she chose, the budget that she chose. And so if you need to just send a plain email right on over to Amanda Lynn, you can just type it right here and then send, or you can use a template. Remember earlier I said I was going to show you exactly where the email templates are used. Just say, for example, this doesn't make any sense chronologically, but let's just say that Amanda Lynn just got home from her trip. You can click Email Templates, Welcome Home Email. And as you'll see, this is exactly what we created earlier as our Welcome Home email. So that, again, that's how things can get a lot easier for you. By the way, you may have noticed something just popped up there. You can edit the font size, color, italics, links, anything like that in an email just by highlighting, and it's going to pop up a box so you can make changes there. So just so you know that exists. For now, though, we're not going to send an email. That's not necessary. However, I do want to go over to the Files tab. Files is where everything gets stored. We send a form, it's stored here. We send a proposal or an invoice, it's stored here. If you have a PDF from a tour company for a package that you're selling to them and you want to make sure that you keep that PDF on file and associated with the trip, you can drop it right here and it will store it. So this is a file storage area for you. The next thing is tasks. This is where you can create a task list of things that you want to do. Like, for example, maybe you want to add a task to send the welcome home email. Or another option, even easier, is earlier I showed you templates and task lists, how I had the hype email set of tasks. Any trip that I want to import that to, I can come right over here and click import, find hype messages, import it, and now that task list that I created as a default task list, I can import that into any trip. And as you see, it automatically sets those due dates where it's going to remind you. So again, this is just a really easy way to keep you organized. You may have noticed earlier that I set the 30-day and 14-day reminders. You'll see that there's no reminder for the 7-day. That's because I haven't done it yet. You can edit this from the template itself, or you can edit it right here on the trip. So now that we're on the trip, I'm going to set a relative due date, 7 days before the trip start date at 8 a.m. So now I've got all these pretty cool things here that are set to remind me of all the things that I want to do. Now, the calendar is very, very similar, except obviously it's a calendar format. You're going to see all of the reminders. And the cool thing is you're also going to see the trip date itself. We have a week view as well and a day view. So basically what you're seeing here is just this trip. The calendar over here on the left side will show all of your trips, but the calendar within a single trip will only show for that trip. The next thing I'm going to do is come over here to the Notes tab. The Notes is just a place where you can store private notes. Say your client gives you a phone call and they're just, they're talking a mile a minute about the places they want to go and you don't want to forget this. This is something only you can see. They can't see it. So you can enter your notes here. Save them, come back at any time, click again to add more. make sure you click that checkbox to save. So going across the rest of the top here really quick, before we send our proposal and our invoice, I wanted to show you the inquiry and waiting on, the trip stages that we were talking about on the dashboard. You can change them right from the trip too. So let's just say that we've sent a proposal. We haven't yet, but we can do that and click check mark, and it will move it into that trip stage. Now, I'm not going to do that just yet, so I'm not going to click the check mark, but you can also change who it's waiting on. So now the fun part, we're going to go ahead and create a proposal. There's 3 ways to create a proposal within TravelJoy. And they all start by clicking create proposal. One thing that we do not have yet that we're actively working on and we do hope to have later this year is an itinerary builder. So if you still have or you're using a third-party itinerary builder, it will work with what we do here, and I'll show you that momentarily. We don't have our own itinerary builder yet, so I'll show you how they play nice together here in just a moment. The 3 types of proposals that you can send are either files that you've already created. This will be like a PDF or a Word document or a graphic, or a link, which is where your itinerary builders come in. If your itinerary builder spits out a link and says, just send this link over to your client, you can paste it in right here. And what that's going to do is send that itinerary to your client with this nice branding and picture and stuff at the top. So it's going to make that itinerary look even better. The 3rd type is a new document. And this is where you can come in and just type your proposal up from scratch. Now, the cool thing here is that you can copy and paste as well. So I got this Google flight over here from Cleveland to San Francisco that I just copied and pasted directly in. And we're going to send that in just a moment. First, we can preview it. This is what it's going to look like for the client. And then we can click, and you don't have to preview, of course, but the next thing we click is review email. And you'll notice this email reads a little bit differently than the first one. I put together your proposal. It's basically letting the client know exactly what they can do here. We're going to send this over. And again, from the client's perspective here, what they're going to see is that same email that we just sent and exactly what the preview looked like. They're going to be able to see this itinerary. Any information that you put in here will show up. And then they can either ask you a question if they're not sure, or they can approve the proposal. I'm going to say Amanda's very agreeable and just goes ahead and approves the proposal. And we're going to refresh the page over here again. What you're going to see, 2 things. On the Files tab, there's now the inquiry and the proposal. On the Messages tab, you see that we sent the proposal. Again, you can see when we sent it. You can see when she viewed it, and you can see when she clicked the Approve button. But to make it even clearer, you get this little blue box up here that lets you know at the top right when a proposal has been approved. You'll notice, by the way, that the trip moved into the proposal approved stage now and waiting on me. That happened automatically when the client approved the proposal. So again, if we go back to the dashboard, this trip is in the proper stage automatically. So I'm going to show you the 2 different types of invoices that we have momentarily, but there's one more form that I want to send first, and that's the travel insurance form. The reason I want to show you guys this is just we get this question a lot, and it's a very good question. In this list here, we have travel insurance. We're going to click next review email. Here's the thing. All that form is going to do is ask them if they want or don't want travel insurance, and then make them sign, of course, because, you know, it's a waiver. What it's not going to tell them is how much travel insurance is, what it covers, or anything like that. There's 2 ways you can include that information when you're sending this out to your client. The first way is to come in here and say, see attachment for insurance details. And then you can come down here and click add attachment. You can drag your PDF or Word document or whatever it is right there. And now you've let the client know. However, if you don't have an attachment and you generally just want to let them know with a quick line of text, you can come up here instead and just tell them travel insurance is $250 per person prepaid. and send this over. So basically you want to either add an attachment here or add something to that email before you send it out so the client has all those details. Because what's going to happen now is they open this email, they see the price, they know what they're getting, they open the form, and they're better informed at this point, ready to decide. Because all it says is by signing below, I understand, the general waiver here. In this case, I'm going to click accept, but in either case, they're going to have to sign. That's my real signature, don't steal it. And then they need to click submit, and that's it. Again, if they have multiple travelers, they can go ahead and sign the form for the other people in their party as well if they are the primary traveler here. Going to refresh one more time, and as expected, you're going to see on the messages tab that she accepted, and you're going to see the form on the files tab. So give me just a second here while I grab a drink of water. Then we're going to go into inquiries, or into invoices, my apologies. But if anybody has any questions right now, feel free to just throw those out there, and we'll either get to them now or we'll get to them right after invoices. Thanks for that brief pause there. So obviously when we create invoices, we're going to come right over to the blue create button again. And I just want to show you both direct and supplier invoices. Direct, as I mentioned earlier, not everybody uses these. If you're with a host agency, that's going to be handling all this directly, you won't need to. But if you're independent and you're collecting trip planning fees that are going to go into your own bank account, that's when you use this form. So when I've clicked direct invoice, here's what comes up. The branding, a section to add items, a section with details around terms and conditions and how they can pay and all that, and then a payment schedule section. We're going to walk through each of those three sections now. The top area is where you're going to add everything associated with the trip. You can add as many items up here as you want, but for this example, we're only going to add one. We're going to click add item, trip planning fee. I automatically have this preset to be $350. You can change it to whatever you want. The place that you make this change permanently to any one of these invoice items is under templates invoice, as we looked at earlier. That's what I'm looking at here. However, I'm going to leave this one at $350. I want to come down to the next section. Payment method is direct. I accept both credit cards and bank transfers. Credit card processing fees are 3.5% plus 30 cents. Bank transfers are only 1.5%, so obviously save a little bit of money. The next field here basically decides who's going to pay the processing fees. The client convenience fee is basically passing along the fee to the client. So instead of getting $350 minus 3.5% and 30 cents, you would get the full $350 because they would be paying a small percentage on top to cover the payment processing. I'm going to leave this check marked right now just to show you what it looks like when we send it. And then you can choose which terms and conditions you want to send here. For example, if this was a cruise and you have slightly different terms and conditions for your cruise, you'd want to select that one. Again, you can create all these under templates, terms and conditions. And the last thing we have down here is the payment schedule. When you click add payment, it's going to add a payment for the full amount due today with the description payment. That's all good for me on this one. We'll get into editing these, adding a deposit and all that kind of stuff when we get to supplier invoices momentarily. For now, what I'm going to do is send this. Now, by the way, if you don't want to send an invoice yet, if you've preemptively created it, or you're bringing over old trips from another system, for example, because you want to have them on record, you don't have to send the invoice in order to save it. You can click next and then just save. This will save the invoice without sending it along to your client. That works with both direct and supplier invoices. But in this case, we're going to click save and review email because we're going to send it over. Again, you can change this up. You can add attachments, any of that good stuff, but we're just going to send this time. By the way, when this finishes sending and we go back to the dashboard, I will we'll show you here that this is now going to put the trip in the stage of waiting for client because we've sent them an invoice and they haven't paid it yet. And it's going to update the trip stage that it's in as well. I believe that my internet got really slow for a second here, so we'll try one more time. We've had some storms rolling through Ohio today, so this is not entirely unexpected. What I just did is saved it instead of sending it. And it took me back to the Files tab here, and I can see that this was not sent, but I can see when it was created. So what I'm going to do now is click the 3 dots and send it. Hopefully it works this time. Yep, everything's back to normal. So you see that she has this invoice. She opens it up. Here's what a direct invoice looks like to your client. It's going to have the branding at the top, of course. It's going to have her name, date of birth, gender, stuff like that at the top as well, if we've entered that, which we haven't in this case. Then it's going to have the trip planning fee, a description of what that is, the price, and right here is the convenience fee. So 3.5% plus 30 cents is $13 and a penny. So in this case, the client would be paying $363.01, and that's the amount listed that's due. The terms and conditions we chose are there, and they see the payment schedule at the bottom. So their options here are ask a question or pay the invoice. Now, remember I mentioned earlier that bank transfers are a lot cheaper to process than credit card processing. When the client goes to pay the invoice, they'll see the option to pay via bank transfer right there and save themselves $7.68. We do this way to keep it very simple for the client, but it's also at the same time, it's a nice little surprise there that that they have another option that's going to only charge them a couple of bucks as opposed to 13 for the convenience fee there. So they can choose whichever option they want. And again, we keep it very simple. It's going to pop up a little box to ask for just the basic information, and they can pay it right there. Pretty self-explanatory. So the next thing that I'm going to do here is create a supplier invoice. This is the other type. This is the type of invoice where you're getting their payment information securely, storing it securely, and using it in third parties, supplier systems out there. So this is the one that you're going to be using the majority of the time. It looks very similar on your end because it still has the add item area here, still has the payment schedule thing down here. And the area in the middle is a lot simpler because we don't need to worry about processing fees at this stage, since we're not actually going to be processing here. We're just getting an authorization. So I'm going to come up here and add my first item. Remember earlier I went into templates and invoice, and I made the Boy Band Hall of Fame tour package. It's right here. That's where these show up. So the description that I created, the name that I gave it, the price that I gave it are all right there. And if you recall, I put that date field down underneath so we could pick a date. I'm going to choose June 6th here. Before I save this and add it, I'm going to show you the commissions tab. This is where you add your commissions for any item that you're adding here. So if you need to add commissions, this is where you do it. So what you would do is click on the commissions tab, choose your supplier, choose the booking date. You always want to add a booking date because that's how all of our reports run. Reports run based on the booking date. And then the commission split box here is only visual. It doesn't actually do anything. So you can't put in a percentage right now. It's just going to show you splits between your agent and agency if those are entered by a team owner, which sounds a little complicated, but basically the answer here is that percentage box is just for looks right now. We are looking at changing that in the future to make it more useful. So The question then becomes, if I do have a commission split, how do I enter that? Well, you come over here and click on Show Commission Split Info. And that opens up all these boxes, which you can use. You can see that they're not grayed out like this one. So if you're expecting commission on 6/30 and the total is $100, 90 for you, 10 for the agency, you can put that information in right there. You can leave the collected blank for now. Add any notes. Again, these are private, not visible to the client on the invoice. And you can save it. So now all your commission info is saved in there as well. If you need to edit anything, you can come over here to the blue pencil icon. It opens it right back up for you to edit anything that you need to. Just click save when you're done. I'm going to add one more item here just to show you what one of our default items looks like. We're going to add a hotel. The hotel by default comes with all these little fields down at the bottom, which are super helpful. So I'm going to add a price here of $3,000. Let's say the hotel is the Hilton Orlando, room number 555, check in, check out. I can add all this information here, and all of it except for the room number is visible on the invoice. And the room number is left off, obviously, for privacy purposes in case they print it out and leave it somewhere. But what you see now is Boy Band Hall of Fame tour, hotel, pricing, $8,000. Now we need to come down to the payment schedule. This is where I'm going to show you guys how to do a deposit and a final payment. When I click add payment here, the same thing as before is going to happen. Full total, basic description, today's date. We're going to change that description by clicking on it. Anywhere you see that blue pencil, that means it's editable. So we're going to change this to deposit. And when we're done, we just need to click in an area outside of the box. And you'll see that blue flash. That means it's saved. We're going to make the deposit 10%, so $800. And then, of course, we're going to need to add another payment. Now, the cool thing about our system is when we go to add our next payment, it automatically does the math for us because $7,200 is remaining. I want to make this 36. I'm going to make this due in a month. And I'm going to add one more, and again, it does the math for us. So now we have a full $8,000 in our payment schedule, which means our invoice is all ready to be sent out. Again, we can just save it if we want to by clicking save, but I want to save and send the email. Client opens it up. This is going to look a little bit different than the direct invoice because this is an authorization technically, not an actual transaction. They're still going to see their name at the top. They're still going to see all these details. Remember earlier we put in these extra details. They're going to be able to see all that. And it's going to say amount due is $800 out of $8,000 because that is the next payment that's due. What's different is they're going to have to enter some information in here instead of just clicking pay at the top. So amount due $800, client's going to type that in, and they can either use a card that they already have on file, or they can add a card, and I'm just going to show you how easy that is really quick here. It'll let them know that they need to sign. And it'll let them know that they need to click the blue button to submit and authorize the payment. So that's it. This payment's now authorized. The next thing that I want to show you, though, is now that the client has two cards on file, it may initially seem to be some confusion as to which card they authorized for this particular deposit. Before I do that, I'm going to open this invoice again. The client can open this invoice again at any time. And now they're going to see amount due $3,600 because that's the next payment due. They're going to see, their payment schedule at the bottom, and they can make additional payments at any time. So I just wanted to pass that information along. But we're going to head back in here. There are 3 places where you can find the client's credit card numbers. One of them is the most convenient. I'm going to show you the other 2 first. Right here, you'll see she's authorized a payment. You can click on payment info. And you can show either one of these credit cards here. That's one place. Another place that you can see credit card info is on the client's tab itself, which you can get by clicking over here. Again, you click on the credit card and you can show or hide the card. The third and by far most convenient place is on the invoice itself, and here's why. So I'm going to click on Files. I am going to go to her invoice. And I'm going to scroll down. And where it says authorized, there's a card beside the word authorized there. The reason this is the most convenient is because when you click it, it automatically opens the right card, the one that they authorized. That saves a lot of heartache to be able to see which one specifically is tied to that authorization. So that's why I wanted to stop and show you that. Discounts and credits are going to be added right now as line items up here. So for example, we have a couple built right into the system. So 20% discount, 50% discount. And what it does is we'll have a cost associated with it. So 20% is going to be minus $1,600. So that's where you would add discounts for now. One thing that we don't have is like a coupon code or anything like that. But we can add those manually. So if there's like a referral credit or something like that, you're easily able to add an item called discount and just make it a negative amount. And you'll see that reflected right away in the total amount. Of course, when you do that, you will need to come down as well and make a change to your payments. Easiest way to do that is delete and add a new one. That way it does all the math for you. So that's how you do that. Oh yeah. I'm going to save this without sending it back to Amanda Lynn because of those changes we just made. So you'll see now, this is waiting on me. The reason it's in the status waiting on me is because the client has approved that payment. I'm going to go ahead and go to the supplier site and make that payment. And then, we can go from there. This is going to be the part where it changes up a lot depending on exactly what your workflow looks like. But you could, for example, next create a new form for passport and pre-departure information, to collect that information and get it on file. But from there, that's generally what the entire trip process looks like. Once you're done with the trip, you can archive it right from the dashboard like I showed you before, or you can archive it on the trip page by coming over here to these 3 little dots, clicking archive, and then clicking completed, or whatever the answer is here. Now, there's one other quick thing that I want to show you guys. We're almost done, but if you do have questions, I would recommend going ahead and getting those typed in now because we're going to wrap up here within the next few minutes, and I want to make sure to help everybody as much as possible. The thing that I wanted to show you is one form you can send, and it doesn't have to be sent from a trip. Over here on the Clients tab, you can see all of their trips. So for example, this guy's got 3 trips. I can click on it and I can see all 3 of his trips that he has lined up. You can also click the little edit icon. Again, a pencil means edit, and update all of his personal information here. You can update his travel preferences, his passport info, all that stuff. Or you can have them update their own contact info. And here's how you do that. I'll use Amanda Lynn as an example because we haven't collected all that information from her yet. We're going to go into her profile by clicking edit and click send profile update form. It's going to bring up a profile update that you can send to her that she fills out, and it will automatically sync that information up right within TravelJoy. So that's a really quick and easy way to get updated information for any client whose information may be a little bit outdated. Two other quick things on this tab. You can delete a client really easily by clicking the X, but you can't delete them if they have an active trip. If they have an active trip, it's going to stop you, because that could be a disaster if you accidentally deleted somebody that still had a trip lined up. The other thing is, if you have a client list from elsewhere, you can import it very, very easily by clicking Add Client, Client Import, and just dragging in your spreadsheet. And if you need to export the list, to put it into, say, MailChimp or Constant Contact, you can click the three dots and click Export Clients at any time. So we make that process extremely easy as well. Let's go over groups really quick, because we had that question and we have not covered that yet. This site can't be added to another website. Everything's handled through TravelJoy. For any site that takes payments, there's got to be a security certificate. So that security certificate wouldn't apply to anybody else's website. It would only apply to ours. So everything in this case will be done through TravelJoy.com. That does not mean, though, that you can't embed forms or anything like that on your website to send people to TravelJoy. But we can't integrate directly with websites right now with anything other than embedding forms. That said, I'm going to go through groups really quick, because that's a really great question. Much like creating a trip, to create a group, you're going to click the pink Create button and click Group. You're going to choose a cover photo that works for everybody. You're going to name your group. Give it a start and end date. And create the group. So it's going to start out completely empty, obviously. So there's two different ways that you can get people into your group. The first is just creating trips. To create a trip, you can either come up here and create it, or you can click the little plus sign right here, which is even quicker. When you're inside the group, just click the plus sign, add the primary traveler's name, and click Create Trip. You now have a group within that trip. That's the easiest way to add one yourself. And now from within this group, you can go to the All Travelers tab, send everybody a group message. You can send everybody a group invoice. You can also send them a group form. And there's a reason that I want to point this out to you guys. This is a really cool feature. If you want to have a link that any client can click, say they have a destination wedding, and you want them to be able to give a link to all their friends and family to sign up to join that trip, you can do that. So what I did, by the way, is on the All Travelers tab, I clicked Create Group Form. And in the list, I'm going to click Group Registration. You don't have this form yet. However, I will post a Help Center link in chat momentarily to show you how to do this. What this does when you click Preview is it asks the client for their first name, last name, email address, any sort of questions you want to ask them. Mine's pretty basic. I just ask if they want a king room or a 2-double room, and lets them ask me any questions they want, and then they submit. Now, the cool thing about this is when they do that, they get added to the group as a traveler. I'm going to click Save and Publish, and it's going to give me this link. This is the link I would give to the bride and groom to send out to their friends and family to say, if you want to join us at our destination wedding, fill out this form and become part of the group. So check this out. Say I'm going to be going to this Ohio trip, this destination wedding. I'm going to go ahead and put in my name here. Say that I want a king room. I don't have any questions right now. I'm going to submit the form. I'm doing that as a client right now. So now I'm going to come back over to my group, and you'll see it right there. I've been added. Just by filling out that form, I've been added to the group. And now me, as the agent, I can take a look at this and say, well, this guy added himself. Here's all of his contact information. Here's the type of bed that he wants. Really cool. So I'm going to show you guys where to find the article and how to set this up really quick. Setting it up does take like 5 or 6 minutes to create the form, but once you do that, sending this out for people to use it is just super easy. Anytime that you need help, there's a couple of places that you can go to get help. The tutorials tab here is the best place to start. There's a couple of things on this page. On the tutorials tab, there's a bunch of videos. Some of these do need updated, and I'm working on that right now. The most updated is our help center, which is linked right here. So in that help center, I'm going to search for group registration and pull up this article. This shows you exactly how to do it. The instructions are pretty quick and easy here. I just went ahead and pasted that over into chat so you guys can open that up and learn a little bit more about group registration. But almost anything that you need is already in the Help Center. However, there will be questions beyond what's in the Help Center. That's completely natural. The easiest way to get in touch with me at any given time is right down here in the lower right-hand corner. Again, we're a team of 4, so I don't have an active phone number that rings to me, although we can set up phone calls. I'll go over that in a couple of minutes here. The quickest and easiest way by far, though, is to click on that little button down there. And A, you can search Help Center there as well. B, you can see the latest feature down here. Or C, the helpful thing is you can click New Conversation. New Conversation means you can send me a message. I'll get it. I'll write back to you. You may occasionally hear back from Chris, Dio, or Mark instead. These are our other 3 employees, but 90% of the time, especially during weekdays, you're going to hear back directly from me. I try to get back to everybody within a couple of hours tops. That'll be a little bit longer on the weekends and overnights, but we do try to get to everybody as quickly as possible. Now, if you can't get into TravelJoy for some reason, that would mean that you can't get to this box. That's where hello@traveljoy.com comes into play. You can send an email there, and that comes to me just like a chat does. So definitely keep that in your address book in case you need to reach out for anything. The last thing is I did know that you can schedule a call. If you got something really complex that just really wouldn't be logical to do through chat, you can come up here on the tutorials tab, click on schedule one-on-one help. And what that's going to do is schedule a 15-minute phone call at your convenience. And I will call you at whatever time that call is scheduled for. So all of those they're completely at your discretion, so you can use them anytime. TravelJoy, by the way, has been around for 2 years. We launched in May of 2016. And we are growing very, very quickly. I appreciate you guys all being here tonight. This is a lot of fun to kind of show people the amount of time that can be saved. This is a smooth, fast platform, really, really simple and easy to use. We work very hard not to overcomplicate it, and I think that's the reason that in these 2 years we've grown so much. But we've got a lot of great things coming up ahead of us as well. We've got a really cool feature coming out that is going to help the group checkout process get faster as well. That'll be within the next couple of weeks. All kinds of stuff. Some of it's a little top secret right now, but we're always taking your suggestions and feedback and incorporating those into our updates as well. So with all of that said, it looks like it's 1 minute until 8 over here in my time zone. And so we're about to wrap up for the night. I've got to go get ready to watch the Cavs. If anybody has any last minute questions, feel free to send those to me in chat. I will get back to you bright and early tomorrow morning, or just send it via email at hello@traveljoy.com. The last thing that I wanted to do for you guys is give you just a really quick code here. And that code will get you 20% off your first 2 months. And here's how you use that code. To sign up for service when you're ready, you go to settings and then membership over here. I guess I should have, I almost forgot the part about how to sign up. That would have been bad. When you get to that page, though, you come over here and you click enter promo code. And you'll see that when you enter the promo code, the monthly price drops. And so you get 20% off for the first 2 months there. I will point out, for those of you who are ready to hit the ground running and you're sure that this is what you want to do, the annual and 3-year plans can save you a ton of money. The 3-year plan is a little under $21 a month. So that's like a third off. It's basically like the 3rd year is free, because it would be $720 for 2 years at the regular rate. So that's pretty good deal there. In any case, on any of these 3 plans, if you change your mind in the first 30 days, even on the big one, we'll give you a full refund within the first 30 days. So you can have some confidence in going with one of those bigger plans there as well. So that code May30TJ20 is in chat. I definitely recommend copying it down. Jen, thank you for letting your group know about this. Very, very much appreciated. We are here to help. And, we want to be part of your agency to help you reclaim some of that time and make life a little bit easier again. So, again, thanks, everybody, for joining us. Oh, hold on just a sec. That promo code is going to be just for the owner. So if you have team members, by the way, that's actually a really good question. I'll go ahead and answer that one now. Team members, if you have like an IC working for you, are $10 a month. You do that by going to settings and then team, and then clicking add member. It's going to send them an invite, and they're automatically going to be billed at only $10 a month once they sign up instead of $30. So there's no discount there. That's already heavily discounted down to 10. So if any of you are going to have team members or assistants, we have that option available for an extra $10 a month per user, and they can all book all their own trips as well. So, all right. I think we'll go ahead and make this the cutoff. It seems like the right time. But thanks again, everybody, for tuning in tonight. And definitely hit me up with your questions. We'll be around and happy to help. You guys all have a great night.